If you always spend the first few minutes wondering what on earth are you going to do about this new project that you have in mind, you have a blank canvas in front of you and you have no idea how to attack it, this video is perfect for you because we're going to talk about some of the most important key aspects that you need to include on a website. So let's get into it. So the first one here is obviously going to be the hero section. This is the most important section. This is what everybody sees when they first land on your site. Now there's a lot of different ways to do a hero section, but what you always need to keep in mind is going to be the fold. So that is the actual section that you see before scrolling. Anything after scrolling is after the fold. So in this case, I've created this little section to visualize the fold here. It's just the blue outline. And we see that we have the nav bar here, the hero section, and then a logo cloud right under it. And this is my attempt at some mock logos. Keep up with me here, but this is going to be what most people get to see when they first land on your site. It's going to be a key image of your services, of your company, you know, what it is that you guys are actually doing. And with that, you need to have a very clear H1. So the H1 is the most important copy on your entire site, and this is supposed to explain who and what it is that you guys do. You know, why is it even important to look at your site? Why should I even care? Under that, we can explain a little bit more about what the business is, you know, go deeper into the why. Are you guys the best in the business, the cheapest? You know, what is your unique selling proposition in this case? Under that, we want to have a call to action so that when people click on it, it's either they scroll, they click, or they leave. You know, there's no more options here. And apart from that, we get to see some of the most important logos, some of the most important companies that you guys have worked with. So after this, it's just features and some other key stuff, but I want to talk about some different ways that we can show this. There isn't a one size fits all. This is a very common type of section, but there's also lots of sections that look like this. This type of section has text in the center and an image on the bottom, and this is a great way to showcase either a video, maybe a reel that you guys have done, some sort of highlight reel that you guys want to show off, something like this, and it's very, very common to have a section looking like this. There's also the type of sections where you have the image in the background, also completely fine, but keep in mind that you need to have correct contrast when you do this. Keep in mind that your typography is going to have a big role in how it's going to be legible. So if you are adding images to the background, make sure that they're easy to see, even with text on top, even with buttons, forms, things like that, because you are going to be filling it up. Now, when it comes to the logos, there's a lot of different ways to do the logos. It's not just this amazing way that I've done here. There's also, for example, this type of grid for logos. If you have worked with a lot of companies that are leading in their own sector, then it's also very important to showcase those, right? You don't want to miss any of those. Like, for example, if I was working with all these massive companies, then I would make sure to include those. A great source of inspiration for this type of section, to be able to go section by section to understand how can I find inspiration for this specific section, for example, for a logo cloud, I recommend landingfolio.com, not sponsored or anything like that. This is just a great resource to be able to find different examples. Now there is a paid version, but don't worry about that. You can find most information on the free one. So for example, we have a 1x4 grid here. So this is just 4 logos, and you can really start to see some of the differences in how you present your logos. Now this is a very specific example, but if I wanted to go back to the hero, for example, we can see some more examples of maybe what text looks like on the left side with an image on the right and the button on the bottom. You know, you have your CTA here, and we can really start to develop this narrative of how we want our site to behave and to convert. Next up is going to be our first H2. We also have a tagline above the H1 here and the H2. This serves some SEO purposes as well, but I like to have it on all my sites because it helps tell the story of what the entire page is talking about. And this is very useful sometimes. For example, we have a feature section here, and we'll get into that in a second. But if we're changing sections here and we're going, for example, we're talking about wheels, and then we're talking about, you know, what tools we use for the wheels. I'm just imagining them. I'm a mechanic here. This might be a great time to talk about maybe our tools, you know, something like that. And then here we can talk about machinery. Not sure if that's how you spell it, but that is the example of where you would use taglines like this. And of course, there is the SEO section of that, but this is where I would personally use this type of tagline. So after the hero section, you know, there's a lot of different ways to do that. The logos, we get into the feature section. Now, the feature section is the bulk of every single website in the world. This is the main content. You know, after you scroll past the fold, this is going to be the actual juice of the site. And there's so many different ways of displaying this type of content that I've decided to add 2 different ones here. So the H3s are going to be similar. Obviously, we have the tagline and these kind of random unsplashed images. Don't pay too much attention to them, but here we have a couple of different things. So this section is great when you want to introduce 2 specific points. So if you want to talk about, for example, 2 very critical aspects of your business, for example, your speed in delivering to customers and maybe your attention to detail, something like that. This would be a great option for you guys to add in some icons into your sections here. Maybe you have a custom made icon, maybe something to do with your own branding, something that represents your brand in an icon, this is a great place to add that. Now, as the text says here, as the copy says, we have to introduce our point and what we're talking about in this case. So as I said, if we want to talk about our speed here and then our delivery to their customers or whatever it is that I said, this is where you want to start introducing that, and under it, you can start to add a little bit more content about what it is that you're even talking about. And of course, our trusty CTA button can never be missed. We also have it in the hero here and also in the nav, always there. Next up is going to be a very similar type of section here, but this one is a little bit more intriguing. So the main purpose behind this one is as you hover over one of these two sections, the image or the content changes. This can also be applied on a timely basis so that even if the person doesn't scroll directly or hover directly over that specific div block there, it can change automatically and it can show the different piece of content that you're trying to talk about. So if you go back to our landing folio here, we can see that feature sections are technically very similar. You either have the text on the left, on the right, or in the middle, and then the media goes on the opposite side. So there isn't that many ways to put this layout out. There are some unique differences there. For example, this one here, but in general, that is going to be the main way that you want to showcase your content, and always have it in a grid so that the content aligns perfectly. I made a video about some of the most key aspects of creating a layout design, so you guys can watch that over there if you want to. But going back to our design here, after the feature section, we have a testimonial section, and this is a very simple way of just showing and nailing it down. We showed all the great features, all the hero headers, everything great about our service. This is what some people that we worked with have to say about it. Now here I've just included some dummy text and the CEO of some company, but you guys can obviously put in the actual information that you want. And the layout that I'm talking about here isn't final. You guys can go ahead and change this and add more or less. This is just one example about what you would do. And if you guys are wondering how I'm doing this in Figma and how it's scaling properly, I also have a Figma 0 to 100 10-minute quick video if you guys need to watch that right there. So within testimonials, there's so many great ways of displaying testimonials. There's this type of grid, and then there's this more unique layout where we have the testimonials themselves kind of overlapping. And if we go back to our resource here, we can see that there's so many different ways of doing it, but these are only two that I've selected here. Again, this is not sponsored, just a great resource. But other than that, we go down onto our CTA. So this is going to be kind of like the nail in the hammer. We've seen the features, we've seen the testimonials. Now it's time to sign up. And after that, if you don't want to sign up directly there are some common FAQs that people might have. And before we get into the FAQs, there are so many different ways as well of developing this CTA. And it really is one of the most important sections of your entire site, because this is where people essentially funnel down into finally signing up. So if you guys need to pay extra attention to detail on this section, I recommend doing so because it's really going to help drive the conversions later on. So after the FAQ, this should just be a simple place where people can find very easy answers like, can I get a refund? Can I get shipment for this product, for that product? Just any example that you can come up with, this is the best place to do that. And if you want to, you can also add a contact form later on or link it to a different page where you have the actual contact page. And then lastly, it's going to be the footer. Now, footer isn't necessarily for conversions or anything like that. It's mostly just for navigation. So make sure that you are able to differentiate all of your different pages and your sections clearly so that people don't get lost when they're looking at your site. Now, by no means is this the only way that you can create a converting website. This is just a good template to have every time that you're lost and you're feeling like, how am I even going to approach this? Clients have a lot of different ways of saying that they want basically the same thing, whether it's either by wanting to convert more or by wanting to look better or by wanting to be ahead of the competitors, whatever it may be. You just need to have a very simple process every time that you approach website design. And hopefully with this template or with this idea where you have a hero header, obviously the nav is also super important. You have the hero header, some logos, feature sections, testimonial, CTA, FAQs, and then the footer. This is just a very simple way to get started with a design. You can present this to the client and they might say, let's get rid of everything that you just did. And sometimes that might happen. So that's totally okay as well. Just go back to the drawing board, go look at this video again, and you should be good. Now I'm just kidding about that last part. But if you guys like this video, then do let me know down below, like, subscribe, do all those things. Leave any comments or questions you might have. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.